Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today. I hope that you're ready for a good group experience tonight, today, whenever you're meeting. So here we are, where the Exodus began, where the story starts. We read in Exodus chapter 1, like we talked about Sunday, about the people of Israel in bondage in Egypt making bricks. Well, most biblical archaeologists think that these are the bricks that they were making. This is what they were here for. And so that's pretty neat. So we're starting this new series in Exodus, and we really have talked about it as discovering your calling, and that's what we're going to go for in this series. As we talked about Sunday, that just as God had not forgotten the call that he had on the people of Israel, he hasn't forgotten the call he has on your life. And so we're going to be talking about that a lot on Sundays, but really there's so much more to the book of Exodus that we could spend time talking about. I mean, if you are not going to be here for the entire series, you should definitely still read the book of Exodus from front to back. It is an amazing book. Some of the most famous passages of Scripture in all of the Bible are in Exodus, and some of the most obscure passages of Scripture in the Bible are found in Exodus. And so one of the things I'd encourage you to do in small group tonight, matter of fact, maybe you want to press pause and stop here, is to, as a group, figure out a reading plan to read through Exodus together and hold each other accountable to that. Read through and maybe send out a group text, hey, did you guys all read through this? And talk about that, because there's some amazing stuff in there. But really in our time tonight, I kind of wanted to help you think through, why would you want to read through the book of Exodus? Why would you want to study the book of Exodus? And I think first and foremost, we want to go to the book of Exodus because we want to understand more about God. All of Scripture, from front to back, Genesis to Revelation, is a revelation of God. It's God revealing himself to us. And so we want to read Exodus so that we can understand not just what God has done, but who he is. So as we read this, as we go through this series, I hope that your understanding of who God is increases. The second reason that we want to read through the book of Exodus is because it helps us better understand our redemption. Really, the story of Exodus is the story of salvation. We talked about how God calls us out to call us in, and that Old Testament picture of Israel walking through the Red Sea is the picture of salvation. The angel of death passing over the household of the nation of Israel because the blood on the doorpost. We're going to talk about that. That's a picture of our salvation. We talked about this week how Moses is a picture of Jesus that helps us understand our redemption, our salvation. And so as we see this, we see God's purpose and plan in redemption in the book of Exodus. The third reason that we want to read the book of Exodus is because it helps us understand our mission here and now. And that's really what we're driving at in this series. What has God called you to? Because the book of Exodus is all about the calling of God on the people of Israel and how he was a God on mission, making his name and his fame known around the world, and how he had called the nation of Israel to display that name, to display that fame, to display that glory to all the nations. And so it's a book that helps us understand that God's a God of mission, and he calls us to join him there. And then finally, the book of Exodus, like every other book in Scripture, helps us understand how we can live obedient lives today, how we can face things such as racial tension, how we can face things such as law and grace, how we can handle all these different things, and helps us figure out how we live our life. So there's so much in the book of Exodus, and I think you do well to read through that book and maybe start discussing even some of that in your group as you read through it together. And really at the heart of Exodus is the story of God's people, and at the heart of this series is your story. And we said this week that there are people who were in our churches on Sunday who were standing on either side of their Exodus. There were some people who have been freed through salvation, through faith in Jesus. They've went through their Exodus and they have a personal saving relationship with him, but maybe they haven't fully begun to live in that and what that looks like. And there's people who have not come to that place where by faith they've trusted Jesus Jesus Christ for the forgiveness of their sins. And so what I'd like you to do tonight to start out with is to maybe take time and go around the room and tell your story, wherever you're at, whatever side of the Exodus you're on. Tell your story and share with that with your group. It's so helpful for the rest of your group to hear that and to talk about that. And maybe if you would say, oh, I'm not really sure what my story is, that's worth sharing as well. And maybe you can walk through that as a group. So come up with a reading plan for Exodus, share your story, and there'll be some more discussion questions in the video description below. So again, good luck and good studying.